up and at 'em on a Tuesday morning, a very, very, very cold Tuesday morning. I now remember why I despise the month of January and February and anything cold. Preston Thorne has it has taken all of about 35 minutes for me to realize I did not layer up, wear enough clothes this morning. But we're up, we're at 'em, we're ready to go. I'll try and limit somewhat of the complaining to a minimum, although based on maybe some of the tweeting yesterday, the talking heads nationally, maybe I'm right in line with them. Maybe it's strangely as you said, post-football letdown.
Yeah, but we're not post-football. It feels like we'll never be post-football. Post-football is going to go until forever.
But as you said yesterday, and I start to agree with the college football, you kind of just had enough.
Yeah, that's the point.
And now maybe there's a little upset of having more.
I'm good. I want to talk about your very rankings. You said it was very, very cold. What's the scale on that? What's the temperature scale on that? Is it 30? Does that start very, very? 20? 3 varies? 10? 4
20 is
varies?
very, very cold.
Okay, I want to get a scale on that. I like analytics. So what's the analytics on that?
Jen's from the Midwest, so she may be a little more acclimated to that, but you've been down here, almost over 20 years now, right? Like you're...
Yeah, it's been actually 30.
30?
I came here when I was 5.
Really?
We're just going to go with that.
Okay. All right. I get what you're saying now. I was going to say, and I start with that because, yeah, Jen's a little more adjusted, but she's pretty much Southern now. But
oh, yeah, this stinks. I mean, I don't like cold.
Yeah, I would say in 30 degrees like this, there's 3 varies.
Okay.
You go to the 20s, I stop using vary, and I start using words that get us banned from the air.
Makes sense.
40, I'm still... I mean, again, if people have listened to this program for the last 8 years, and Jen will testify to it, I am a whiner and a complainer when it comes to, especially when it comes to cold and in this studio in particular.
Yes.
So, yes, 3 varies in the 30s. The 40s, I'm still not a happy person, and even in the 50s,
it's a sliding scale.
I'm not particularly thrilled. We go below the 30s, I stop using vary, and I start using words that are inappropriate.
He's calling in sick to work. Let's face it.
Yeah, well, Terry's laughed. I've punched our thermostat twice in 8 years. Because of me, there is a plastic box with a lock on it that we cannot get into to adjust it.
Oh, we can now. We took care of the, yeah.
No, we got to get the key to it. We've got to acquire the key.
I think we can handle that without any trouble. We don't have anybody monitoring it.
There you go. That's what you got a scale on that there?
No,
you're from Somerville. You're like me. You've grown up with this. Charleston's not.
It's cold. I don't not particularly like it, but you know what? Got to layer up and do a show, bub. Let's go. Let's roll.
I'm here.
No. We need you to be here.
Just like the SEC. I'm here. I'm not dying. I'm not falling apart. Still bringing an A game, but I'm here.
Let's go.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. Quiet night of sports last night. First night now in a while with no no NFL Monday night football. Preston Thorne, did you get at all involved in the FCS National Championship?
I thought it was a replay. I saw it on TV. I'm like, what is happening? I thought they played that game on Saturdays normally, but it's on a Monday night now. I saw North Dakota State. I was trying to check the time. Was this from 2023, 2024? Is this a replay? But no, this is apparently real. Who won?
North Dakota State did 35-32. Only complaint I have, so I just did that little rant about it being cold, but I do feel like this time of year, watching cold football makes me feel warm, gives me the warm and fuzzies. And when I see North Dakota State, the Bison, and I see Montana State, I feel like that game should be played outdoors somewhere in a Dakota or a Montana, or put it maybe in an Idaho. Somewhere where I want to see players' breaths. I want to see snow. I want to see people bundled up and acting like complete crazy people. Instead, they played in Frisco, Texas. Not exactly warm there either. But yeah, North Dakota State. That was your Monday Night Football. FCS champions. I watched a little bit. Didn't get too far into it, but just enough to kind of appreciate what was going on with North Dakota State.
So North Dakota State lost to Colorado in the first game of the year by 5 points. So does that make that a good win for Colorado now? Can they say that they beat the national champions?
It was a good win for Colorado then. I don't know if either of us thought that they would get past that game
And
I
it was
think
going to be tight.
I think if we were to do an early game, what did we completely get wrong? How we projected the Colorado season, we got completely wrong, and it started with that game. And Colorado not only getting past it, but then going on to big things. And who knows how exactly that bowl went out, as we have different reports. But yeah, that was a good win for them then, and then it's a really good win for them now.
And it makes it a good loss for North Dakota State because Colorado ended up having such a good year.
You're right. At that moment, in that time, that might have been one where, like, Colorado State's like, ooh, want to kind of cover that one up on the schedule. Maybe now they're a little bit happier that they're like, yeah, all right, we lost to Prime and Shador and Travis Hunter. That's not a bad loss.
9-win team.
So North Dakota State rolling on. They are they've got a good quarterback in Cam Miller, and a part of this, and we're going to get into the transfer portal. When you have guys who stick around programs, Cam Miller last night for running for 2 touchdowns, throwing for 2 more in his 54th consecutive start for North Dakota State as quarterback. The Bison won their record 10th FCS title. That's a pretty cool little story there to see a quarterback who I'm sure could have entered the transfer portal and said, I want to go play in bigger and better football, but sticks it out. Good for him.
Good for them. Good choice. Sure, he made the best choice for him. So North Dakota State is where he decided to continue his legacy. Good for him. There's always a path. I mean, we just saw Trey Lance playing in the NFL. So there's a path to the NFL from North Dakota State if that's what he wants to do. So good for him.
Carson Wentz. I forget exactly where Carson Wentz, which school. I think he went to one of the Dakotas there. But that was your main viewing. Tonight we get into a whole bunch of college basketball. It really starts. Tonight's kind of the big start. Saturday was, to me, kind of the official, unofficial college basketball start. You had started to move past the bowl season, started to kind of move past some of the playoffs discussions and everything. The NFL was wrapping up. And so what you had on Saturday was the start of conference play. You had a lot of really good games. Tennessee and Arkansas. You had Florida and Kentucky. You had Texas and Texas A&M in that little rivalry game. Obviously, South Carolina, Mississippi State. Tonight, Preston, when we were kids growing up, and especially about middle schoolish age, was what I really remember is Super Tuesday.
Okay.
You'd have the 7 o'clock Big Ten game. You'd have the 9 o'clock SEC game. They'd both be really good. Monday night was normally a Big East night. I remember a bunch of Syracuse, Georgetown matchups. Or
absolutely.
Connecticut, Providence. I mean, you still get those. But it was on ESPN. Now FS1 has gotten into the mix a little bit, kind of like tonight, St. John's and Xavier tip-off at about 6:30
nice
tonight.
Little coaching matchup there.
Yeah, little Rick Pitino, little Sean Miller. You got number 1 Tennessee tonight on the road at number 8 Florida on ESPN2 tonight. Kentucky at Georgia. You got Clemson and against Pat Kelsey in Louisville. Tonight's kind of like that night where I remember growing up again during the cold months. You'd come home and plop down. I'd get in front of the TV for Super Tuesday or Big Monday, as they called it on ESPN, get a little nostalgic there, and get into my college basketball. And we'll see if tonight kind of pushes me more toward the college basketball.
That's a great question. It seems like everybody started paying attention during the postseason, but then when you have the regular season, where it comes from the idea that Alabama was not dominant. That's all it comes from.
Is that where it starts?
People just see Alabama losing. They're like, oh, the SEC is terrible.
Okay.
And there might be something to it.
Is there anything to seeing Georgia also kind of not be who Georgia has been? Because Georgia was good. Georgia had a good season, lost the Alabama game, lost the Mississippi game, but then Georgia just never was the juggernaut that Georgia had become, is. I don't know, however you want to phrase it, because I say was. It seems to imply that they're not going to be back at that level, which I don't know if that's true. I would take Georgia to be back at that level before Kalen DeBoer in Alabama.
Well, yeah, because Kalen DeBoer hasn't proven that he can do it in the SEC, but the whole conference, everything. This is why this whole question is interesting to me, and this is why I want to frame this whole question, because everything that we've built our identity on is about being in the SEC. And if the SEC is not very good, then who are we? We've always built our identity on SEC. And we've kind of been like, yeah, but we're in the SEC. Whenever we talk about our record, whenever we talk about anything that's happening in recruiting, but if the SEC is not good according to the building national narrative, what does that mean for us?
Well, I think the narrative shouldn't be, is the SEC bad, or can two things be right at one time, where the SEC is not as strong as it has been, but the Big Ten has upped their game by bringing in high-quality programs. Remember, they were bringing in Southern Cal. That was the one that was going to step up and be the big bell cow program. No, it wasn't. It was Oregon. Turned out to be Oregon. But Oregon just got blistered by Ohio State. Does that mean Oregon was a fraud this year? I don't think that's what it means, but they did just get blistered, and they really got lucky, if you want to go back to that game in Eugene, to win that ball game. If there was an extra second left on the clock, maybe Ohio State's kicking that field goal, and we're talking a little bit different. Ohio State lost to a questionable Michigan team. Does that mean that Ohio State is a slightly above average football team that is getting hot at the right time? I think the narrative is a little off on, well, the SEC is just, it's not a good conference this year. The SEC is still perfectly fine. For 1 year, kind of what we all thought may sooner or later happen, maybe the Big Ten caught them, and maybe quite possibly the Big Ten passed to them this year.
But some people would say it's 2 years now, because Michigan won last year.
Right.
So they would say it's been not 1 year, but it's been 2 years.
And if you wanted to make that case because of what you just said, certainly that would be there to say, hey, look at what happened last year. Michigan took down Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Michigan won the national championship. If that's the case you want to go, it's a very interesting case. It's very subjective, and I think here in the South, we're going to still defend the SEC, and they're in the Northeast, the Midwest. They're going to say no.
Northeast, Midwest, Pacific, Northwest.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere else. So we'll get into that a little bit. We'll get into a little bit of that as Preston wants to get on the path of the SEC. Also get into a little bit of transfer portal discussion on a Tuesday. South Carolina picking up a offensive line commitment yesterday. We'll tell you a little bit about that. Get into a few other transfer portal Tuesday nuggets from what popped out on Monday. And also this hour, Brett Bielema is not letting this thing go, is he? Is this the kid who knows he did wrong and is still trying to explain his way out of it to anybody who will listen?
I don't think that's what he feels. I don't think he feels that way. I don't think he feels this way. I think this game was important.
A week ago today, and Brett Bielema, I feel like some of us have slightly moved on, or maybe that's what you do in a loss. You just shove it behind you. Whereas if South Carolina won, we'd still be talking about it.
Yeah, what's the expiration date on a victory? I don't know. When you don't have another one.
When there's not another one, no, that's part of the bullshit. We'll talk about that. We'll get into that a little bit this hour as well. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in this morning. Ronnie this morning texts and says, it's a little chilly, but I'm still out here wearing shorts. The co-pilot, on the other hand, well, he says it's cold, and then uses a description I'm not going to use to describe just how cold it is. But
colder than a well dig. Yeah.
A what? Where were you going? That we can keep our employment colder than a well digger?
And then you speak of their anatomy. Yeah. It's just a little expression.
And we're off and running on a Tuesday morning. Hope you're up. Hope you're smiling. Hope you're ready for a big day. You're listening to Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne. It is the early game.
Hey, it's Jennifer, CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. We had the demolition we had to do in the kitchen and gutted it and everything. That was not a fun experience, but I'll tell you what, the folks at CHW Cabinetry in Lexington made it a whole bunch better, figured things out, got the photorealistic rendering, so we actually could see what the kitchen was going to look like before it was actually finished. And taking that in and then trying to find tile, backsplash, countertops, and all of that made that process so much easier. And kitchens. That's one thing that they do, but they can also help you get things more organized in your closet. Maybe you're tired of those wire hanging racks. You want some solutions to be more functional in your closet. They can do that. Your pantry, maybe don't redo the whole kitchen, just want some drawers in the pantry. They can help you with that as well. I encourage you to visit chwcabinetry.com or call them today, 803-520-6837. And of course, be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. The good news this morning, even though it's chillier, we don't have any accidents to report, so we're not going to be slowed down too much at this point, hopefully. 47 is the high that we are looking for today, but it is going to be sunny, so we welcome that when it's cooler. 23, that overnight low. Tomorrow, high of 49, overnight low of 22, and we kind of keep on that trend through Thursday for sure, and actually into Friday, but 45 on Thursday, 40 on Friday. Those overnight lows staying in the 20s. We get up to a balmy 30 overnight Friday into Saturday. So bundle up for the next several mornings. It's currently 30 on the early game.
6:21 as we get you up and get you going here on a Tuesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen is transfer portal season still in full effect. And yesterday, South Carolina landing a third offensive line commitment. This coming from Troy center, if I'm saying this correctly, Bose Stanley. Not even close.
No.
What do I got?
The spelling is B-O-A-Z. Boaz.
Boaz? Mm-hmm. Okay. Boaz Stanley.
And what a name that is. What a great name. It's strong. It's old school, biblical. That's the type of name you want from your old lineman. Boaz. Love it. B-O-A-Z.
Boaz, tough as a whatever. Yeah, I mean, boy, you could have some fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
So what becomes interesting of this, Stanley, who's played nearly 800 snaps for Troy, started 5 of the first 6 games at right tackle this past season before moving to center full time. We saw South Carolina last year bring in 2 interior guys, Kamar Bell and Torricelli Simpkins, that would end up starting on the interior of the line. South Carolina appears to be following the same kind of game plan here with upgrading or building depth. I'm not sure what it is. And I think that's the question, because if you go by the recruiting rankings, if you go by what people like Chris Clark and Wes Mitchell and Hale McGranahan, all the recruiting guys say, South Carolina has recruited exceptionally well on the interior of the offensive line. Marquis Anderson was a really big pickup. Travon Ball was a really big pickup. There's talk about moving Tree Babalade to the interior. But you're now bringing these guys. But I'm going to take the positive approach here. The positive approach is you're building depth and you're building competition, Preston, that will help Lonnie Teasley, maybe to an extent Sean Elliott. Greg Atkins is still there as technically an analyst, to create competition in the spring so that nobody's just being like, oh, yeah, that's my spot. It's my time to step in.
Well, the concept, I think by the end of this year, they were very fortunate there wasn't as many injuries, but you're always aware that injuries can and probably will happen in the offensive line, and you always want to build depth because those guys need to be competing against each other to see who's gonna win out, as we stated. Every other position on the football field is very different than quarterbacks. I'm a little wary about building depth in the quarterback room because only one can play, and so that might get some feathers ruffled. But in the interior lineman, we know that if you're an interior lineman, if you're a guard, you're competing for 2 positions, possibly 3 if you can learn how to snap. From all the indication that we've read, it looks like Boaz can play across the board.
Right.
And so maybe you want a utility guy that can go in and put pressure on any of those players. And I'm sure that's not what he's thinking. I'm sure he's thinking I'm coming in to play now. So there's spots that have been vacated by Torricelli and Kamar. I believe Kamar's leaving also, correct?
Yep, he was very experienced.
So there's plenty of opportunity there, and you would welcome anybody, especially a veteran who has seemingly played well at the college football level.
Yeah, to kind of go with this, I don't know. Aaron Parks is listed as a redshirt senior. He was another guy that was brought in from Oklahoma last year, but I don't know if he, again, here comes the fun thing of trying to figure out who's got that one extra year and who doesn't. But other than that, you're right. You're losing Vershawn Lee. You're losing Kamar Bell. You're losing Torricelli Simpkins. By my list here, and this is kind of interesting now, I don't know what your opinion is. You've played it. You've gone against these guys. When you think a young offensive lineman is truly ready or should be truly ready. Josiah Thompson's different. He was a true freshman that had to stepped in this year and won the tackle against some competition. Tree Babalade and Travon Ball 2 years ago were forced into action. Total different situation. But by my count here, you've got about 11 guys, Preston, that will compete for the offensive line. You got the 3 transfers: Nick Sharp, Rodney Newsom Jr., and Stanley there, the 3 transfers at this point. Then you got Josiah Thompson, Tree Babalade, Marquis Anderson, and Travon Ball. Those are the 4 that I think everybody really kind of looked at. Those are the 4 that were going to compete to kind of create this offensive line. Behind them, Blake Franks will be a redshirt freshman. Cam Pringle, a redshirt freshman. Ryan Brubaker, I believe, I'd have to go and look at this. I believe is going to be a redshirt junior. And Jatavius Shivers. Throw in Kason Henry as well. Left him off my list. That actually takes you to 12. 12 is a pretty solid number to have, given that all 12 of those are expected to be competing, right? That's a difference than saying, like Shed Surratt, the freshman from Gaffney, or the other young offensive lineman that they flipped from Georgia Tech. Those guys you look at and go, okay, realistically, you guys get to go with Luke Day for a year and hang out in the weight room and the conditioning program and learn. You other 12, hey, we got 5 spots. We'll see who can figure it out.
Yeah, that's a too deep. That's a too deep, depending on folks that can go, that can play multiple positions, and that's what you want going into the spring. Now, everybody out of those 12 won't emerge as somebody who's plays, and we've seen that if healthy, they would prefer to play a singular unit. So you're probably looking at maybe 7 to 8 guys that you're looking at going into any particular game with who can actually play. So there'll be some trimming of the O-line fat also as we move forward, but that's a good number to start with.
Well, again, at least according to this and according to what you're kind of looking at with these guys, Rodney Newsom Jr. from Western Kentucky has played a lot of football. Nick Sharp at Wake Forest has played a lot of football. As I mentioned with Stanley here, 6'4", 310 pounds, played 800 snaps this season. Another guy who's played a lot of football. You're not bringing in like young pups to figure out what they can do. You're bringing in experienced veteran guys. That's what they did with Kamar Bell. Torricelli Simpkins, albeit from a lower level school, had played a lot of football. These were experienced veteran guys who had played a lot of college football and could come in and were expected to come in and earn that starting job or create competition right off the bat.
That seems like a route that is pretty prudent to take because offensive linemen need to have a certain maturity about themselves as they're playing the game, as they go through the ups and downs of that game. So that if this is a philosophy that we see developing with Shane Beamer and Darren Usher and all of those folks over there, this could work. It worked out last year, but you got to pick the right ones.
803-404-6100. So you look at that group, I think it's the right strategy. I think you can't get caught up, and I think your boy Torricelli Simpkins is a perfect example of that, and you go, whoa, look at the school he came from. Oh, what kind of pickup is that? I mean, again, you're talking about Newsom Jr. being from Western Kentucky, Stanley being from Troy. I know that, 2 years ago, Sidney Fugar came from Western Illinois, and that didn't really work out, and I can't remember the other tackle who came from Charlotte, and that didn't really work out. But maybe they're narrowing down how they want to do this and how they want to put these pieces in place because, Preston, offensive line, South Carolina's going to have to be even better. They were better. They took steps forward this year, especially towards the end of the year. They're going to have to be even better in 2025.
Yeah, because the team we presume is going to be based around what the offense can do.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. We'll continue talking about the 2024 team a little bit. They lost a week ago. A week ago, we were doing our pregame show. Brett Bielema still living in the moment. We'll let Preston Thorne explain that as we roll along. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
They do say that perfection is a journey, and our journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin with the renovation of an upstairs bathroom and then the master bath when we replaced cabinets. Of course, we needed a countertop, so we were referred to Carolina Stone Craftsman, and the first time we were there, we were very impressed. You really need to go check out their showroom. It's amazing. And they now have an outdoor showroom that they're finishing up to help with hardscapes, and I can't wait to tell you more about what they're doing in outdoor spaces. But they explained their commitment to affordable marble and granite and quartz. They were helpful in helping us figure out exactly what we wanted, different types of marble and granite, and we made the right choice as far as we're concerned, and the installation process was fantastic. If you're in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I do encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. Be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. Just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations, carolinastonecraftsman.com. And for the start of your Tuesday morning, we don't really have any major accidents to report. There is a report of an object on the highway I-26 westbound at St. Andrews Road. So just keep your eyes peeled in that area, but no accidents at this time. 47 will be our high today, overnight low of 23. 49 tomorrow, again, overnight low of 22, and 45 on Thursday. Looking at 26 to start out your morning. Right now, though, it's a chilly 30 on the early game.
When I made the decision, I was walking over to tend to our player. It wasn't premeditated. It wasn't thought out, but I'm walking over there, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to be pretty close to the sideline. I'm going to give the T sign because I want those staff and those players to know I know what happened, right? Like, just competitive part of me. That's what I did. And, you know, in retrospect, you know, I probably could have said it to, you know, the coach individually after the game, but I was competitive. I wanted to win a game, and thankfully I think it changed the energy in the entire stadium and happened. It wasn't anything about substitution. Obviously, we were executing some things. We'd really done that technique on substitution all year when offense subs, especially when it's late in the clock, if it's under 25 seconds, we always sub because we feel we can either make them get a penalty or call a timeout, and that happened magically during the course of the game. But that's totally, again, that's pretty common in college football. But the T-bar was there.
Methinks someone doth protest too much.
Yeah, the best part of that is we did that on purpose, and magically it worked.
Right. Wow.
We've been doing it all year.
Correct.
And magically in the bowl game, it worked. Radio. Look, that's playing within the gray lines, and at that point, I have to look at Brett Bielema and go, well played, sir.
Yep.
Well played. On that strategy, not on the T-bar and the inciting a near riot that are on the sideline. But, hey, play. What is play to the echo of the whistle? 64-55. What are all those football analogies you guys use?
53 in the third, 110, 53 in the third. You got to play the whole field, all of it. Yeah, man. Listen. So he conveniently left out the part about the faking injuries. He wasn't talking about that strategy. Yeah. He was talking about the substitution strategy, which, I mean, I guess it's a thing. You saw that happening. That's not what he was talking about. He did the. Who would have thought the T-bar was going to be such a thing?
We have all been introduced.
We didn't
2025, know. Preston and Jen, the year of the T-bar.
Yeah. So it just sounded like it was just two dudes who was in their feelings, and both of them, and then we see how that works. Two stewards of leadership couldn't control their feelings.
Let me ask both of y'all, the three of us can be a little emotional at times. Do y'all buy his, it wasn't going to happen, but as I was walking across the field, I then decided to make it happen, or was it premeditated to where, like, oh, I see an opportunity, let me go do this? Because those are two entirely different things where, as he says in that clip, well, I wasn't going to do it. But then I got close to the sideline, and I realized, oh, I'm pretty close. I can make this gesture.
That might have been what happened. He walked over there. He was walking over there to see his player was injured or not. His player was fine. So once he figured that out, he was like, oh, yeah, I got to let him know. I got to let you know that I know that you're trying to do something sneaky. And Shay was like, me? We're doing something sneaky? Because how did Shay know what he was talking about if he didn't know what he was talking? You know what I'm saying? Like, they both were trying to be sneaky, and they both got mad at the other one calling them sneaky. It's all within the rules.
Maybe in bigger picture, though, because Brett Bielema said something that I've talked to people that were down there, and they agree. It brought an energy to the state. It brought a mundane – look, South Carolina, Illinois – didn't generate interest. Those two names, when you looked at the bowl schedule, didn't engage interest from the rest of the national group, right? Like, South Carolina, Illinois is not like, ooh, got to check. A questionable Alabama team and a bad Michigan team, you're like, I might need to check that out. I want to see the name brands, the uniforms colliding with each other. I want to see all that. I'll check that out. South Carolina, Illinois is not one where people are like, yeah, 3 o'clock, Citrus Bowl. Need to check that out. But once that occurred, now that game has become a little bit more of a national discussion, and it brought a little bit of fuel to that game.
It did. It changed the temperature in the room for sure. I mean, and it gave Luke Day a chance to get everybody up. He was in full strength coach form, and let's go. He had been waiting for that moment for a long time. It seemed like so. Yeah, it turned it into a football game, and that was fun. It was good.
It was something spectacular and something definitely that changed the momentum. Now, you mentioned both coaches being in their feelings. Brett Bielema, I don't know if there was something prior to the T-bar that set him off. Shane Beamer, on the other hand, Jen, this is number 6. Shane Beamer and his staff were starting to notice more and more of a Lane Kiffin-esque strategy from Illinois during the game. This is Brett Bielema also talking about accusations of faking injuries.
The part that really gets lost in all of this, it kind of opens the floodgates for everybody else. And like they were made mention to me the day after that they were saying we're faking injuries. We had 3 players that I had to go on the field and tend to. 2 of those 3 players never even came back in the game. Actually, one's going to require surgery. So the complete baloney that we were faking injuries was absolutely ludicrous. The 3 players that were injured that we had to stop the game for, 2 of those 3 never actually returned to the game. The one that was injured when I went over there had a head injury and had a tingleness in his and I appreciate Coach Beamer. He actually patted him on the ass and said I hoped he got better, I think. But it was one of those where, fortunately for us, those 2 players left the game for the entire game that are good players that we never got back, but we were fortunate enough to still win the game.
Okay, but what about the one that was following the directive off the stage, where he looks to the sideline and is like, "Oh my gosh!" It was like, "Elizabeth, it's the big one." That's kind of what he looked like. I'm coming to you.
Well, he said 2 of 3.
Yes, that's true.
I love that. I'll never forget years and years and years ago when Tim Tebow was playing football. Colin Cowherd had some like random statistic of like Tim Tebow on 3rd and 8 and his passing statistic. Well, Preston, I would just imagine any quarterback, no matter who, 3rd and 8 is a very difficult down in the NFL to pick up. And it was like, I'm going to pick out this random statistic to prove my point. And in this, I feel like Brett Bielema was like, well, in the 3 injuries, 2 of the guys didn't go. Well, there was more than 3. So thank you for picking 3 from which you're choosing from.
Well, it was the 3 that they had to come on the field for. So then we got to go back and check how many people got injured that they didn't have to come on the field for, how many stoppages of play. Listen, that's why we all know that statistics can be very, very interesting, but that's Brett's side of the story.
So Brett Bielema there defending his team, defending his program. 803-404-6100. Let's go back out to the phone lines. Andy wants to weigh in this morning on the offensive line. Andy, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Oh, man, first of all, that coach, he looked like he ran an illegal tire store in Pickens County that wasn't licensed. Used tires in Pickens County, illegal. That's what I think when I look at that man. Because he just, drove us crazy. But about the offensive line, are y'all there?
Yeah, we're listening to you. We got you.
Okay. Looks like at the bowl game, the offense took a step back to earlier on. And let's be honest, the overall offensive line has not been great. I mean, Rattler was running around like crazy, running for his life. So I've heard a lot of we got receivers, but I haven't heard a lot about offensive line. So I'm glad y'all said that because, quite frankly, we've needed that, and hopefully we're going to build some depth. So I appreciate y'all on that point, and y'all have a good day.
You too. Thank you for the phone call. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody hit us up, and on the text line I mentioned Ja'Kai Moore is back. I don't know. I'll try and check on that. I think he has to apply because Ja'Kai Moore is really testing the limits of football eligibility. I don't know if he is specifically back or if he was a 6th-year guy to begin with, Preston, who got injured. So I believe this would be year 7 for him. He would be the new pop of the football team if he is indeed back.
I was going to say, he's going to bring one of his grandkids to practice,
just out there. Back in my day, when we ran it 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But I don't, so I'm not positive. I think he has to apply for that, and I don't know if he has. And certainly, even if he has, I don't know if it's been granted. I'll check into that a little bit more, and we'll try and get to the bottom of that. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Cotton Bowl weather? Well, you can explain that to me when we come back. We'll get into that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. 6:49 as we get you up and get you going. Reminder, got a lot going on this week. Starting tonight, 6 p.m., Carolina Calls with Dawn Staley right here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. That'll be tonight. Tomorrow night, South Carolina men's basketball. The Gamecocks host Alabama, who stays at number 5 in the AP Top 25 rankings. Crimson Tide come in here. We'll have the pregame for you at 6:30 tomorrow night. That'll be followed by tip-off at 7 o'clock. And Thursday night, we will have Carolina Calls with Lamont Paris on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. Also on Thursday, early tip-off for the women, 4:30 pregame. 5 o'clock tip-off. And make note of this, if you want to listen to that game on your way home from work, that game will be on 98.5 WOMG. So we are putting them on the big FM station as well with so much going on. You can hear that, the women's game, 98.5 WOMG here in Columbia. And again, pregame will start for that at 4:30 on Thursday. Tip-off taking place at 5 o'clock. So a lot going on. We'll even tell you more about our Lawyer Lisa special teams contest. Is it still a contest if we're not waiting on them to score?
Well, you waited to the end. You made it all the way to the end. You got the big draw at the end, so it didn't happen. Even though, like we said, 1 week ago, they did try to make it happen. Somebody did try to cash in on that bet. So we started the show talking about it was very, very, very cold, right? That's what we said in the 30 degrees. That means it's very, very cold?
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very cold.
Now,
anything below 30, which it appears it might be on Friday, looking at my weather.
On Friday in Columbia, it appears it's going to be 38 degrees. So what would you consist that of? Very, very, or very, very, very?
Bleepity bleep.
Bleepity bleep. Okay, now when you add in a snow/wintry mix to that, how do you feel about that?
Not good. Not good.
Okay. But that is in Columbia, South Carolina. Guess what we're not doing in Columbia, South Carolina? We're not playing the Cotton Bowl.
Oh, yeah, okay, the Cotton Bowl, yeah.
Yeah. Cotton Bowl. We'll be in Dallas. What are we going to do with this as far as the people are concerned? Does this impede anything as far as the spectacle that was supposed to happen with this game? Does it change anything as far as people's travel plans, getting to the game, any of this conversation that has happened in Dallas? Because the concern right now in Dallas is that it's going to be a low of 30 and a 75% chance of snow.
So we're just talking about travel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ohio State, I would assume, knows how to travel through snow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Texas,
but sometimes you don't have control. Like you do know how to travel through it, but sometimes the conditions are just not favorable for anybody.
Yeah, I don't. At Texas, I'm guessing maybe they can coordinate, the University of Texas and their fans, obviously the players, they can coordinate a little bit better. And even though they're probably not as acclimated to snow, they're probably a little bit better to understand, all right, we might need to leave a day early, we might need to leave a day later and maybe not make it quite the trip over to Dallas. I think it'll work. And, of course, they'll all be in Jerry World in a nice climate-controlled stadium filled with a very large, big screen and probably heavily overpriced concessions.
Mm-hmm. A lot of hot chocolate being sold?
Maybe. I would. I mean,
depending on how climate controlled that stadium really is.
I was going to say it depends if people are sneaking their Kahlua in with it, but I would go with a different beverage on a Friday night. But with that in mind, I would assume that everything is going to be status quo. Now the question is, if you're an Ohio State fan or even if you're a Texas fan, Texas might be a little bit different. A little bit different because they're viewing this as a home game, and I've seen the complaints like, how did Texas end up with a home game, essentially a home game in the college football playoff and what's supposed to be a sterile environment? Well, that appears to just be how the luck of the draw, the seedings went. But maybe if you're Ohio State, you're kind of looking a little jealous over at Happy Valley and Penn State, maybe a little jealous down at South Bend, Indiana. You're like, so you guys are going to Miami? We're going to more snow in Dallas and in Arlington, where this is where we're at. And you guys are getting Hard Rock Stadium and Miami beaches and everything right now, because what is the temperature? Maybe we'll look up a temperature for that on Thursday evening.
Do you think there's any chance that they postpone it?
No.
Zero chance.
No. And I don't want to be callous, and I'm not being but I'm just going to use the example. If they didn't postpone or move the game in New Orleans, which was a far greater, they'll get the teams there, right? The teams will be there. That's going to be no problem. And then it's kind of like, hey, look, weather, you're kind of on your own for weather. Whereas the situation in New Orleans was obviously tragic. There were more safety concerns. Or if they didn't postpone that out for more days while that was still going on, or didn't move it to a different location. Now, this is the part of the college football playoff. You've got a date set a week from next Monday. We got a college football championship we got to play.
Still going.
It's still going. And so, no, they're going to say it's kind of – I think if you were a little more flexible, they might have moved the Georgia Notre Dame game maybe to another day, but moved it to another venue as well, like, say, Houston or something, which wouldn't have been too far away to play that game there.
All right, we'll see. I'm interested to see how this develops. Dallas does not do well with weather, much like we don't do well with weather. We'll see.
803-404-6100. J.C. Shurburtt set to join us in the next hour. We'll talk about that bowl game. We'll also go back to that SEC is dying narrative. I'm sure he'll have a hot take, kind of like hot chocolate. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. It is cold outside, that I do know. But you know what? How about at Old Timey Meat Market, you can purchase homemade soup. Did you know that? Did you think it was just steaks, chicken, pork chops, great fish? Well, guess what? At Old Timey Meat Market, not only do they have all those great, delicious cuts of meat that have great prices with them, but they have homemade soup, clam chowder. You've got a little bit of loaded baked potato. Well, go find out for yourself. It's in the freezer section. You can purchase a nice gallon of it, and you will be more than happy with your purchase. It's just another reason I love visiting the people at Old Timey Meat Market, because whether it's a great steak I'm looking for, maybe it's breakfast items like thick cut bacon or Southern style biscuits, or maybe it's that soup, I know I'm going to find exactly what I want at Old Timey Meat Market in one of their 3 locations: South Congaree, St. Andrews Road, Irmo, or the Lexington store. Stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
We do have the report of an accident, I-26 westbound at Broad River Road. Also, Olympia Avenue near Bluff Road, so kind of at Texas Street. We have a report of an accident there. Aside from that, other slowdowns have been cleared, and we're looking for a high today of 47. Going to have some cold mornings ahead. Overnight low 23. Tomorrow, 49. Overnight low of 22. Come Thursday, it's going to be 45. Overnight low of 26. So bundling up the next few days. It's 30 currently on the early game.
Seven a.m. as we get you up and get you going on your Tuesday morning. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, joined in just a second by J.C. Shurburtt, as he does each and every Tuesday. We'll look back at his thoughts on that ball game, talking a little bit this morning about Brett Bielema and him still going on national radio and defending things that he did or that his team did not do. And we'll get into that a little bit. And also some of this messaging from Preston, would you say national media? Is that kind of what we're going with here on the strength of the SEC and what occurred this year?
People are ready to pounce. People are sick of the bullies on the block, and they've seen a little bit of a glimmer of weakness, and they're ready to pounce and announce that a 20-year reign is over after 2 short years.
Well, we'll get JC's thoughts on that as he joins us now live from, well, JC, I've complained a lot about the cold. It's about 30 some odd degrees here this morning. What is the official temperature? Do you have it for where you were at this morning?
20, 18. Most of the Arctic winter or whatever went to the south of here, so that's good for me. Because it certainly won't be the last of the winter weather. This winter and spring. So yeah, I'm bundled up. I think the whole country is. So.
Well, yeah. The only problem is I'm the one probably of all the country I'm complaining the most of it right now, even though at least I am in a studio where the thermostat tells me it's 73 degrees. But hope you had a good new year. Welcome in. Glad to have you back. I know last week we had to do an abbreviated as we were kind of doing our pregame, but we'll get to a lot this morning with you. Some of what you just heard Preston talking about. Do want to get your take on the strength of the SEC this year and what the conference was. But let's start here with your big picture takeaway, since we haven't talked to you yet, on the bowl game. From Mike Shula's play calling to some of the things that occurred during the game. What was your big picture takeaway?
I didn't think the game plan and play calling was wrong. I think that, with Lenore Sellers specifically, he, sometimes you got to find a sweet spot when you have a quarterback like that. And, as far as when to run, when not to run, how aggressively to run, when to stay in the pocket. And it almost looked like Lenore's in the game overcorrected, which happens. Were there times it would have been better to not take the check down or just take off and use his legs to make a big play like Clemson game? Absolutely. Illinois played defense a lot different than Clemson did. Clemson just loaded it up and came after him. Lots of green space behind the line of scrimmage. Illinois kind of sat back a lot like Ole Miss did in that football game. I think Shane Beamer nailed it when he said they couldn't finish. I mean, you're in a game against a team you're favored against that you should be beating, and how upsets happen is You get deep inside their territory, 3 times and come away with no points, 4 times and 3 points. That's going to get you beat most of the time. And then I think second half, obviously, in critical situations, the defense got beat. And who knows what would have happened had they had their All-American safety back there in the second half. But that's hard to predict. We can play the what-if game all day. I mean, but that game kind of that's how upsets take place, especially in bowl games after a 30-day layoff. And if you notice, that layoff matters. If you notice in the college football playoff, none of the teams that got the bye won the games. And most of them looked pretty bad. Arizona State took Texas to overtime, but they got behind 24-8 before making a comeback and waking up. You're rusty in the sport when you take that much time off. It's almost not really like playing a season opener, but a month is a long time. And I'm not making excuses because Illinois had a month off as well. But those are all things that go into getting upset. And that was an upset, and it happens. And I've seen it. I tell the story. 1998, the Michigan State Saban leaves in the middle of the night, goes to LSU. His staff stays. Bobby Williams, the interim coach. They happen to play Spurrier and the Florida Gators in the Citrus Bowl, and Michigan State won the football game. In 2007, Tim Tebow won the Heisman. Florida was 9-3, and in the Citrus Bowl, they lost to the Michigan team that lost to App State that year in the Citrus Bowl. I mean, this isn't unprecedented, and it's just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth, of course. But you can't control what happened. It control the controllables moving forward, and if you're looking for a silver lining, hopefully this. And I don't know, because somebody has Gamecock 7th ranked in a way too early top 25. Maybe this kind of slows the hype train down for next season, because lots of times SEC teams will get that off-season hype and severely underperform if history's any indication. So maybe it ends up being a pretty good thing for Carolina that, everybody kind of gets mad about this and works even harder this offseason to make sure there's not a repeat in Atlanta here in about 8 months.
Preston, let me ask you, because we tend to be the conductors of the hype train. We kind of started that 2 days after the spring game with Lenore Sellers. In all seriousness, is it a slight benefit to slow some of the hype down going into the offseason, or would you rather the team have won the game and go into the season getting all the accolade? Like, is that what you want, or does this team need to be held back just a tad?
Bill, would you rather make more money, or would you rather make – no, that's a ridiculous question. Of course I want to win. You never want to lose, ever.
I'm not talking about winning or losing. I'm talking about for the hype. Is it better to have the hype pulled back on this team a little bit? Give me the hype. Let's take it off. Because they didn't handle it well going into the bowl game.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll figure it. Give me the hype, and we'll figure out what to do. I can always bring you down. Hard to bring you up. Give me all the hype. I would obviously prefer to win. You want to have good vibes because, hey, the off season sucks. It is long. You just said it's cold. Well, guess what you don't have to do? You get to sit inside a climate-controlled studio. Those dudes are going to go out on the field and have Luke Day yelling at them all the time, and they're flipping tires. That's not a lot of fun with the chip on your shoulder. So, yes, give me the hype, and we'll build from there. Speaking of building toward 2025, JC, your take yesterday, the Gamecocks pick up another transfer offensive lineman, third one of the portal. Your take on the offensive line and what kind of they're trying to set up here going toward next season.
Well, it's one of they got 3 now, and they definitely wanted a center. I mean, they're all big losses. Torselli Simpkins is a good player. Kamar Bell started every game, and Vershawn Lee has been there. I mean, I think he's probably about to go to his 10-year high school reunion. And obviously he was a stalwart at center, and a really good center, too. And Vershawn, I can't say enough good about him. So you got to replace those guys. You got Ryan Brubaker, who was the backup center. Boaz Stanley, which is a heck of a name.
Great name.
Played a lot of center. Played a lot of center. Played a lot of right tackle. 6'4", 310 out of Oconee County, Georgia. Went to Troy. Obviously, Troy's got a good program. They got good football players. Yes, he can come in and compete at that center position. It's my hope that we don't see all three transfer portal guys start this year, from the simple fact that I'm really high on these offensive linemen that they got from the high school ranks of the program. And, some of them are going into their, third year. And so you kind of hope that Trevon Ball, Marky Anderson, Big Tree, those guys, maybe Blake Franks, Cam Pringle, who are sort of young and going into their second year, win a starting spot. But like Coach Beamer says, it's about competition. It's a cornerstone of the program. And these guys are coming in to compete, Stanley, Sharp, and Newsom from Western Kentucky. And so people are going to have to earn it at that spot. I do think it's pretty critical that the offensive line takes another step forward next year. I didn't think they took the step forward they needed to completely this season, but it was obviously better than last season. So, and the numbers, if people have to understand this, you want to carry about 15. South Carolina signed 5 from the high school ranks the last 2 cycles. So there is a numbers deficiency there on the offensive line as well. But, just from my standpoint, I'd like to see one of these guys that's already there beat some of these older guys out, because I don't think you want to count on this on the offensive line every season. And for some of these guys, it's time to go in and start and be good. Who that is specifically, I don't know, but we'll see what happens as we get into spring practice and all that. But boy, Stanley, good play. I mean, anytime you can get a guy that can play inside or outside on the O-line, I think that's a benefit. You can cross-train him. I don't know that they cross-trained enough this past year. I know fans don't like to hear that, and it's a boogeyman. They tend to blame cross-training for everything, but Carolina didn't really this year. And so I think that this is a good, versatile guy that can come in, and older guy that can play well. His grades from PFF were outstanding. Didn't give up, I think, didn't give up a sack this year. So that's good when we've seen at times around here teams come right up the middle and sack the quarterback. So that's good. And I look for him to compete at that center position first and foremost.
803-404-6100. So a little bit of a recap there. We'll get a big picture take with J.C. Shurburtt. Get some words, a narrative from Joel Klatt, and let J.C. and Preston get into that. Is the SEC dead? Is it no longer head and shoulders above everybody else? We'll let you kind of discuss that here as we roll along this morning. 803-404-6100. If you want to text in this morning, you're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, joined as always on a Tuesday morning by J.C. Shurburtt. It's the early game.
Heading into the new year is here. You still have pain in your knees, hips, back? Well, you can change that with the call to the good folks at QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative medicine and joint preservation. So it's time to get moving again in 2025. Yes, you can revitalize your joints with advanced orthobiologic treatments at QC Kinetics. No steroids, no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. This is the future of medicine. QC Kinetics uses natural solutions like PRP to attack the pain from your arthritis. So if you want to learn more about how these can refresh your joints and get lasting relief, call QC Kinetics for a free consultation. The number is 803-281-6860. That's QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860. 803-281-6860.
And looking at what the traffic conditions are like, Olympia Avenue near Bluff Road. Also, I-26 westbound there at exit 97 also have a report of an accident if you're headed towards the upstate. And your forecast, yep, it's going to be chilly. Going to want to be bundling up. 47 for the high today, 23 overnight, 49 tomorrow, and again, overnight low of 22. 45 with overnight low of 26 for Thursday. So again, some chilly mornings. Do bundle up. Right now, it is 30 on the early game.
The narrative that the SEC is so clearly head and shoulders above everybody all the time is dead, and it needs to die based on the evidence in front of our eyes. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't have the most guys drafted in the NFL draft. It doesn't mean that they're not a great conference. They are a great conference. They're probably the deepest conference this year. There's no doubt. However, this idea of vast superiority needs to die based on the evidence, not narrative, evidence. And so, as we move forward, hopefully that's the case.
That is the voice of Joel Klatt and discussing the SEC, and Preston and JC obviously coming off. It wasn't an ACC-esque bowl season performance, but it's not one that maybe a lot of people would hold to the standard of the SEC, which now has opened the door for talking heads to take shots at the SEC. And Preston, I'll start with you. Is there a particular game? Is it Georgia losing without Carson Beck? Is it Alabama now picking up loss number 4 to a Michigan team that really wasn't that good? Is it South Carolina losing to Illinois? Is there something that is a driving force behind it, or is it just simply, well, it looks like the Big Ten's better?
The Big Ten's not better, but Joe Klatt said that he was gonna say that it was based on evidence and not narrative. And then 15 seconds before that, he gave 2 pieces of evidence. He said, yeah, they'll probably have the most guys drafted, and yeah, they're probably deepest, but they're not the best. So my question now, obviously I don't have Joe Klatt here, but my question would be, what is he judging that on? Is he judging that simply on one-off games during this CFP? What is the basis of that particular argument? Because I don't agree with it.
JC, you're an SEC guy. I mean, you've been around the conference for a long time. You hear that and you watch the performances this year. What's your takeaway?
I'm a reality guy, and that take is void of reality. Bowls, and I'll say this, the ACC's bowl record, that doesn't mean they're a bad conference. There's other evidence that says it's a bad conference, right? You can look at Indiana in person and watch how they matched up against Notre Dame and say that team was not good enough. SMU, same way. The bowls, look, he talked about evidence. Well, he'd be a terrible detective because, all right, what's the reality of bowl games? How many guys opt out? Like I said earlier, the layoff, all 4 teams that had the layoff lost. And none, with the exception of Arizona State, waking up and coming back on Texas, who likely fell asleep. None looked really good at all. These are the same people that thought Boise State deserved to be the number 3 seed in the whole thing and said Indiana was a great football team. So there's more evidence there of bad takery. I don't you want to do NCAA tournament records in basketball? Great. But are we going to start doing NIT records too and judging strength of conference that way? I mean, come on. See, these are college kids still, even though they're getting paid. There's opt-outs. there's injuries? Are we going to sit there and say with a straight face Georgia didn't miss Carson Beck? Probably, and it's not that Gunnar Stockton played poorly, because I don't think he did, but your starting quarterback does things like gets you lined up, calls the right play, checks into the right audibles, and all the things we don't see on TV. And I think it's just a whole lot of jealousy and a whole lot of hate. I think some of it's cultural, quite frankly. People that aren't from the South hate the South. And most of them don't live in the South, and so they're jealous. Trust me, I know a lot of people that are jealous of the people that live down here, because they are where you guys are at, where I'm from, because the quality of life's so good. You don't get taxed into oblivion. It's warm, so there's a lot of jealousy, not just about football, that goes into this whole let's beat up the South and beat up the SEC kind of thing. I mean, nobody ever talks about the fact that the mighty Big Ten basically tried to ruin college football, shanked their little brother, the Pac-12, make student athletes fly from coast to coast to coast, zigzagging the country at all times. Yet it's all the SEC's fault for adding 2 schools in Texas and Oklahoma that make all the sense in the world to be in the league in contiguous states. I mean, that's the point of view with all this crap that you're listening, that people are listening to. And I get it. You hate the SEC. You're jealous of the SEC. That's fine, And there's a big difference, too, between conference, right, and a team. I'll tell you right now, Ohio State's the best team in the country, and they probably have been all year. They just didn't play like it, And so you want to talk about, is Ohio State better than all 16 SEC teams? Most likely. They are. They should. They spent $20 million on their roster, and they're Ohio State. But that doesn't mean that, because Michigan, Alabama looked like they didn't even know how to play football in the first quarter of that game, because Michigan upset, or because Illinois upset South Carolina, or because Southern Cal is 2-0 in Vegas this year for some reason, yet they look like crap the rest of the time. That doesn't mean the conference isn't the best in the country and isn't a dominant conference. And I think what Joel Klatt and everybody else needs to realize is, in question, were the right SEC teams in the playoff? It's hard to sit there and say after the bowl season, but you look at Tennessee's results this year, and you're like, well, they won, but were they really better than South Carolina? They beat Alabama. Well, okay, so we can give them that. Were they better than Ole Miss? No, they didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play LSU. They didn't play Carolina. They didn't play A&M. Yeah, we're sitting there going, oh, look at how bad Ohio State whipped them. Well, they should have whipped them. Well, Ohio State should have beaten everybody all year. So I soundly reject that. It's just fake news, because it's like they're holding up this playoff that was flawed from the start, that even was flawed as far as Notre Dame and Ohio State seeding goes, right? And saying there's no SEC teams left. Georgia had a bad game. Notre Dame played great, and I don't know that Carson Beck saves Georgia in that one, but quarterback's an important position. I think anybody that knows football would agree with that. So, I soundly reject that notion regardless of what happens. And I say that being honest and saying I think Ohio State should win the national championship.
Preston, are you with that on Ohio State winning? I kind of agree with him there. I feel bad for you. I feel like Saki's you're gonna have to hold up a
this is all going wrong.
A sign, yeah, it's gone south on you here quickly. But I do agree with you on that. I'm with the.
Is their coach still Ryan Day?
Yes.
Hold out.
I do side with, look, conference supremacy. One thing we can all agree on, I hope, maybe, the Big Ten and the SEC do appear to have separated themselves from everybody else. Are we on board with that? Is that a question?
I think at the top, you got 2 teams that were really good in the Big Ten, Ohio State and Oregon. Is Penn State? I mean, Penn State's played 2 group of 5 teams basically. Are they really that good? Are they better than Texas A&M? Are they better than? How would they fare against Missouri? Name your LSU and name your team. I mean, I And I don't know. I think the Big 12 gets the shaft in all this too. I mean, everybody's like the Big. How on what planet does the Big 12 rank below the ACC? Just because it was a competitive league. And the committee completely ignored conference depth. And when you rank teams like it's the 1980s, that's what you're going to get because that old school system of 1 loss, 2 loss, that kind of crap. And so, no, I think the SEC is far and away tougher than the Big Ten. Big difference going to West Lafayette in October and going to Gainesville, Florida. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. So,
and that's Lane Kiffin's point and all this. Everybody wants to bag on Lane because he's Lane Kiffin, but that's his point in all this. It's you can't match the environments, you can't match the athleticism, you can't match the talent. And unfortunately, the imbalanced schedule has benefited the Big Ten because you can, as Penn State's shown, you can go through a Big Ten season and not have to play anybody. And Indiana, my God. And then the SEC, look at what everybody had to go through because of the depth in the conference. That's why the numbers, the facts, if we want to get into facts, the numbers of the strength of schedule, strength of record, you look at the teams that made it, they were all below the teams that didn't, with the exception of Georgia, who didn't have their quarterback. I mean, this is an asinine argument.
I'm not sure who has been more fired up this morning. Preston started off really kind of going. He was ready. He had pitchforks out and was ready to go. JC's now fired up. I feel like I've done a good job. Preston, you got a rebuttal here for about a minute on anything of that? Just anything that catches your attention
I'm glad we pushed the button that we needed to out of JC. You brought it the first quarter. The first segment, you was a little bit like that Illinois game at the beginning. But somehow, I think Joe Klatt just gave you the T-bar, and now you seem like you're ready to go. Let's keep it rolling.
And according to the text lines, many of y'all fired up as well. 803.
There we go.
404.
T-bar for Joe Klatt just gave us all the T-bar, and we're all Shane Beamer now. Let's go.
And we'll come back to that. We'll get back into a few other things from South Carolina football with JC
Change your
Shurburtt.
energy.
Yeah. Y'all are good to go now. The morning coffee has kicked in. The anger at the cold weather has kicked in. We're officially up and running on a Tuesday morning. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, joined as always on a Tuesday morning by JC Shurburtt. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. All right, we are officially into 2025, and what that means is you're looking at a lot of things maybe in your life, and one of those things might be your mortgage payment. You might be thinking about refinancing. Maybe you're even thinking about looking at moving, upgrading, downsizing in the coming year, and the first thing you need to do is call Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. That's right. See what interest rates are available to you. See how much money you can borrow. See how much you can save on a brand new mortgage payment. And you can do that by just making the phone call to First Palmetto Bank and Jacob Crowder today. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. Call the Mortgage Guru today. See what products are available. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you. That phone number again, 803-719-1005. He's the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder.
And out there on the highways this morning, we are looking at an accident, Highway 378 near Fort Jackson Boulevard. Also out in Gaston, Meadowfield Road at South Carlisle Street. And aside from that, other accidents have been cleared, so good on that in that respect. And I can't talk at all. 47, that's what we're looking for the high today. Overnight low 23, much of the same tomorrow, 49 with an overnight low of 22. Come Thursday, it'll be 45 and 26 is the expected overnight low. But right now, holding steady at a chilly 30 on 107.5 The Game.
$7:35 as we try to warm you up with not anger. That's not fair. We're not doing that, are we? We're not doing that. We're not getting.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't know you. I don't know if you are, but JC that meter was rising. The meter was rising.
Several people weighing in here. Texter said, we get it. We get it. The only real football is played in the SEC. We get it. David weighing in this morning. Conference supremacy means absolutely nothing. Not one conference champion is in the playoffs anymore. Chris, I think our Miami fan. I think we got a lot of Chris's that text in, so I apologize. It says, I never understand the infatuation of loving a conference. I don't live here. Curious to know if South Carolina Nation pounded the independent drum like they do for the SEC. I do think just personally, I want to go back to something else here in a minute, but there is a level of pride that SEC teams have, even if you're not at the top, of how good the conference has been, not just in football, because, JC, I'll tell you what, I'll turn the conversation for a second here to basketball, and you see what the conference is doing in basketball right now and how difficult this conference is going to be. You had a really good weekend of top 25 matchups with Tennessee, Arkansas. You had Florida and Kentucky tonight. We've got Tennessee and Florida taking each other on. It is interesting, though, that I think conference affiliation, conference infatuation is only an SEC thing. Preston, I'll start with you. Do you think that? Or do you think that's just a narrative that is or a mindset that I have that I do think it's only an SEC thing.
I don't think it's only an SEC thing, because we just talked about how nostalgically when you were talking about Big Mondays with the Big East in basketball, that was the thing. They had a 30 for 30 on the old Big East, the Southwest Conference with Arkansas. That was a thing. Conference regional identity as far as playing styles has always been a thing. So I can't say that now. Are we one of the only ones that still have it with this new current iteration of college football where it's not necessarily as regional? Maybe, possibly, but no, that's always been a thing.
JC, you agree with that? I mean, I can even think back to the Southwest Conference days, the SWAC, like where they were Texas, Oklahoma, all those schools. They were kind of, I feel like they were very all proud of their conference, even if they all despised each other and were giving away Mustangs and Corvettes left and right like it was handing out candy canes at Christmas.
Well, two things on this. Number one, in basketball, it absolutely matters because, I mean, you had some – I mean, if your league is perceived to be down, you can have a really good team like Clemson a few years ago, Wake Forest a couple of years ago, and not make Carolina in 16, and not make the tournament, which is probably how it should be, although I don't always agree with the metrics they use in basketball because style points with the Ken Pom and the efficiency and all that crap. But basketball, it absolutely matters. Your conference is really, really important. In football, as far as the pride part of it goes, it's going to matter less and less because it's not, the SEC is not coming off of it because the SEC is the only like regional conference left. You know, Southwest Conference, the reason people love that so much is, you know, I don't know if you know anybody from Texas, but they're very proud of being from Texas. Even people that have moved to Texas are happy to be living in Texas. And that, how many Texas schools were in the Southwest Conference? All of them but Arkansas, right? And so that's a lot of state pride. Well, you're not going to have that anymore because the Big Ten and the ACC and the Big 12 are spread out all over the country. So that's part of it, the regionality of it. The second part of it is nobody's sitting there toting the banner SEC. It's just facing reality of the toughness of the league. The Miami fan needs to understand they had one of the worst defenses in America. Okay? There was no planet they deserved to be in the playoffs at all after losing 2 games. And everybody could see that. And when you're playing in the ACC, it makes it even worse. That team doesn't win 6 games in the Southeastern Conference. And that's just, I know it's speculation, but those are just facts, Yeah, you beat Florida when they were really down at the beginning of the year. You probably wouldn't have beaten them again. Once they figured out, hey, this DJ Lagway kid's pretty good and we're not firing our coach, Florida was a pretty good football team. People just got to understand that. It's not that everybody's just like, conference homers. It's just, they understand the strength of it. No, and nobody's really asking, I think, for, you need to put all these SEC teams in and screw everybody else. I don't think anybody's asking for a regional playoff, right? But if you're going to play a tougher schedule, which is mathematically proven according to the way we decide schedules, then you need to be rewarded over a team that went 10-2 in a crappy conference. That's fact. Even within the SEC, they need to do something about imbalanced schedules. So it's just fairness, man. There's not 30 games in football like there is in basketball. I get it, and it's hard, but you can't. The whole point of expanding the playoff was not to put every 11-1 team in the country into the playoff. It was to reward teams for playing tough schedules, and they absolutely categorically failed in doing that this year. All the stupid narratives aside, I say that also to add this: our sport does need Joel Klatt and Danny Kanell. You can't have like one. You have to debate. You have to have debate. You have to have different viewpoints and stuff like that. It doesn't mean they're right. They're absolutely wrong. But we do need folks like that out there, that are kind of heels to the dominant conference. I get it. I'm not mad at them. I don't groan every time I hear something from them. We need that. Debate is healthy, but they're absolutely wrong about the debate.
Real quick, and then we're going to hit a break. We talked basketball for just a second. I'm going to kind of wedge that in here real quick. Your thoughts on what you saw Saturday in the 35-point loss against Mississippi State and what this basketball team is moving forward now, especially with Alabama and Auburn, 2 top 5 teams coming to Colonial Life Arena this week.
Well, they have to play much better. It's some of the stuff, and Paris pointed this out, this press conference, and some of the stuff on the court just can't keep happening. This team hasn't gelled. I think that some of the lackadaisical games in the non-conference, the closer wins against lesser opponents, if you play like that against a good team, Mississippi State, you're going to get the doors blown off of you. And they did. Doesn't mean they can't rally. Will they rally in the next 2 games with, 2 top 5 teams coming in? I don't know. The SEC is very tough this year as far as, there are a lot of good teams, especially when you look at the non-conference. But, Carolina's not the only team to get the doors blown off of them. Texas lost by 20 to A&M. Oklahoma was blown out by Alabama. Tennessee took Arkansas to the woodshed. One of the only close games was Kentucky and Florida, which was a really good basketball game. So, it's not hopeless, but it will be hopeless if this team continues to do the things they do. Things like rebounding and defense, you just got to play harder. Or play smarter, whatever the term is, whatever Coach Paris says they need to do. They need to get out there because I don't see where they're playing like they're coached at all right now. This is just a different bunch, and you heard the term haven't gelled. They haven't gelled. So they need to gel. It's going to be tough doing that, but, it's one game, so we'll see what happens moving forward.
803-404-6100, a spirited hour comes to a close when we return. Final thoughts on South Carolina football with JC as we continue to roll through the transfer portal. You're listening to The Early Game. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. All right, we're into 2025. Taxes are coming around the corner, and if you're receiving one of those nasty notices from the IRS, you or your business could be in trouble, and you don't want to try and navigate that on your own. You need the professionals at the Ecton Law Firm to be there for you, to walk with you, to navigate the IRS maze, and it all starts with a free consultation. 803-771-9800. That's 803-771-9800. They have a local team, whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, maybe Aiken or Augusta. The Ecton Law Firm has a local team dedicated to solving your business or tax income issues for good. So give them a phone call, 803-771-9800. Time is limited. You don't want to wait on this. Call today. Speak with the Ecton Law Firm. Get that free consultation, 803-771-9800. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family have been the leader, the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that history that is your assurance. Their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. They're going to do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to your operations. Whether it's your home, whether it's your business, don't wait until you have a leak. Go ahead and call Mid-State Roofing now, because whether it's high-rises or hospitals, manufacturing or industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps your operation dry and running long into the future. And they're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You heard that right. You make a phone call right now, 7:47 a.m. They have an on-call technician ready to take your phone call and help you with a maintenance contract. So call Mid-State Roofing today, 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Reminder tonight, right here on 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach, we got Carolina Calls with Dawn Staley, so you can hear her talk about her team. And reminder, it'll be an early tip-off on Thursday They take on Texas A&M right here at Colonial Life Arena. You can hear that on 98.5 WOMG. It'll be a 4:30 pregame setup and a 5 o'clock tip-off for that. So, again, Dawn Staley tonight, Carolina Calls, 107.5 the game here in Columbia, 100.3 the game in Myrtle Beach. And then an early tip-off. You can get over there kind of late afternoon basketball on Thursday. 5 o'clock tip-off, Gamecocks and Texas A&M at Colonial Life Arena. You can hear it right here on 98.5 WOMG. All right, well, Spirited Hour. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement, all warmer now. But let's ask you this real quick, JC, going back to the transfer portal. We mentioned the addition of the 3 offensive linemen. South Carolina today, I believe it's today, correct me if I'm wrong, will host a running back prospect from, I believe, Utah State, Rasul Faison. Also, Brandon, is it Cisse? Is it Cisse? How do I say Brandon from Sumter?
Cisse. I don't know. I looked it up. I'll just be honest. In my mind, it's Cisse. I don't want to say Cisse. I mean, come on, man. I don't know. Just let me pass on that one.
Okay. There you go.
I don't know how to say
Two of us in the same.
Look, I'll just be honest. I don't know how to say it. And if I say it like it's in my mind, it sounds like his name is Sissy.
Also,
I can't. I mean, I'm not going to do that to the kid. He's for something.
That's right. Yep. So a defensive back there.
Can he fight? Because if that's his name, he had to grow up fighting.
Probably from down there in the Sumter area.
Yeah, from anywhere.
Yeah, had to learn. Also, the Gamecocks.
It may be Cease. It may be Cease. No.
Yeah, but when has that ever mattered to kids?
Not a lick.
Never.
No, yeah. The playground was a rough place growing up. Playground was a rough place. Gamecocks also, by the way, hosting 6'3", 315-pound defensive tackle Terry Webb, originally from Texas State and from the Galveston area. So I give you those names. JC, what are we watching for this week as for the transfer portal and what the Gamecocks would like to add?
Yeah, I love Rasul Faison. I mean, he's a fast, shifty back, rushed for 1,000 yards at Utah State, kind of what they need in that room as far as, getting more numbers in there. You really want to have 5, I think, depending on what they do with Jaquel Hallman. You get a guy from the portal that's going to give you 4 or 5, which you need 4 at a minimum on scholarship at running back. And then you mentioned Webb. Obviously, D-tackle is one of the biggest needs this offseason, considering they lost 3 good ones, 3 veterans in Sanders, Hemingway, and Huntley. They got Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, obviously, in the from the portal, and he's going to help. You got some guys coming back, but you really need 1 more, and then another D lineman that is probably maybe a big edge or an end, or probably just best player, end or tackle. And then you mentioned the corner from NC State from Sumter. That's a situation where he's probably just good not to take. They like their cornerback situation an awful lot with Swain and Collier and then Miles Norwood from the portal. But, you have a kid from in-state that's not good, and he is good. It's probably just he's too good not to get involved with. And he is a really good player and would add to that room. I think with the loss at safety, you're going to have to kind of figure out next year if you're Torian Gray, who's a nickel, who's a safety, do you slide Kilgore back? Those are all good questions that will be answered through time. But I do believe that it's just too good of a player not to take. And the running back's already on campus. He got there last night, and then the corner from Sumter, I believe, is set to come in on Wednesday. So it should be and then Webb is already there, obviously, and then his teammate Coleman is in later this week. So there is some activity. I like taking guys from lower levels. I thought one thing about Boaz Stanley I did not mention, he's got 2 years left, and was actually at Georgia Military Junior College. So depending on how this junior college thing comes down, he could be there for a long time, and or longer than we think. And I like taking guys like that out of the portal. Nothing wrong with one and dones. Obviously, they've helped Carolina too. But when you can get a guy in, and even if he doesn't contribute next year, or there's an injury or something like that, it's good to have those guys multiple years.
Quick pronunciation guide: Cisse. The name is
Cisse.
Cisse.
So
S-E-E?
Cisse. So it's like Cece's Pizza. So, Cisse.
Cisse.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part.
I like that.
That was,
Cisse.
that was
That's
sent
Brandon
in.
Cisse.
That was sent in by Willie Offer, head coach down at Lakewood.
Okay.
Fellow Viking.
Thank you,
Skull.
Willie.
Appreciate it.
Fellow
Willie.
Viking, fellow.
Man,
Yeah.
I've known Willie for a long time from when he coached down in Florida, and certainly remember him as a player. So,
Yes, sir.
tell Willie, JC Shurburtt, said what's up. But glad for him to correct my pronunciation there tremendously. But
Got it.
Always a big Willie Alford fan, and I'm a fan of Cisse as well. I think he's a really good player.
So we'll keep an eye on all that. Welcome to the new world. Remember, JC, back in this time, we'd be doing high school recruiting and talking about gearing up for the big high school recruiting weekend that would really get going this coming weekend. Nope. Now we're all doing the transfer portal thing, and
it'll end mid-January. So January, if basketball doesn't turn around, it's going to be, I don't want to say boring, but we'll all be waiting for baseball season.
39 days.
30, yeah, not far away. Not far away.
Yeah, but I'm not ready to give up on basketball yet. You don't give up after one.
You don't have to give up.
They do have to play better.
Always appreciate it, buddy.
38 days.
Take care.
Hey, thanks. I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Take care. Hour 3 on the way. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. And you know what? The new year is here. It's out with the old, in with the new. And that can apply to your car, truck, or SUV. Let's be honest. Some of you out there, it might be time to go looking for that next family vehicle to get you to all the incredible sporting events, the family vacations, the games that you got to go to, maybe even the family road trips. And at Love Chevrolet, they have got you taken care of with 14 acres of brand new Chevys, their entire lineup of award-winning vehicles. You heard that right. Love Chevrolet has newer Chevys on the lot than any other dealer here in the Midlands. So whether it's the color, the style, or the features that you've been looking for, you're going to find them, and you're going to find them with incredible savings. Visit Love Chevrolet. You can visit them on the web, lovechevy.com, or get out there in person. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, and together, let's drive.
And we do have a report of an accident on Highway 378 near Fort Jackson Boulevard. Also, Highway 35 at Clapman Boulevard, at Jarvis Clapman Boulevard. There appears to be an accident there. Meadowfield Road at South Carlisle Street. Also, an accident there. So be careful if you would this morning. Hope your Tuesday morning is off to a good start. We're looking for a high today of 47, overnight low of 23, 49 tomorrow, and then overnight low again of about 22. Thursday, another cooler morning, 45 and 26 for that overnight low. Start seeing some rain possibilities on Friday night into Saturday morning. Currently 30 on 107.5 The Game.
A rousing first 2 hours full of just scorching hot takes as we get you up and get you going on a Tuesday morning, January the 7th. Welcome in, I think, for most kids and most, I think, teachers and administrators, Preston, true first day back as now we begin the winter and spring semester, kind of the back half of the year for the teachers here at the elementary, middle school, and high school level.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Everybody's coming in. You got to get reacclimated, go over procedures, processes. You might be starting a new semester. You might be getting a brand new batch if you're a high school teacher. Could be bad news, could be good news. You might want to get rid of the crew you had before. You might be sad to see them leave. You never know how this works out. So there's exciting times for a lot of teachers, for sure.
So good luck to everybody getting back into the real rhythm. Welcome into 2025 now this week. I know we're about 6 days late here as you probably adjusted last week and got yourself through on the second, maybe the first. Does anybody really wake up on the first and be like, all right, new year, here we go?
Somebody does.
Do they?
Yeah. Somebody at 12 o'clock is like, this is it.
Okay. All right.
Doing it.
So
whatever it
7
is.
days then if you're that kind of person, you're up and you're running. But I think for most people are now really starting to get back into the flow of things. We do as well. And counting down will get you to the college football playoff on Thursday night as you got Notre Dame and Penn State on Thursday night. And Preston, we'll get into a little bit of this because you look at it, I think a week ago, most of us expected it to be Georgia and Notre Dame. Does that seem, excuse me, I'm sorry, Georgia was playing Notre Dame. Georgia and Penn State in this ball game.
That might have been our SEC bias showing.
Yeah.
That might have been our SEC skirt showing a little bit and saying, we just think that a average Georgia team can beat a very good Notre Dame team. Maybe that was our bias showing in that, especially considering the fact that their starting quarterback was hurt. But maybe we thought we had seen Carson Beck all year. He threw all those interceptions. Maybe this kid, Gunnar Stockton, will be a lot better. So I would say I did think Georgia would win, but again, maybe I'm checking my biases with that conversation.
Yeah, I don't know, and maybe it is SEC bias. My bias was just having watched Georgia and Kirby Smart. I just believe they can overcome the vast majority of any deficiencies they have, kind of like they did in the second half against Alabama, even though they lost, and kind of like they did against Texas. But to see them just completely stifled.
Yeah, because I think what you can say is that I do have faith and belief that Kirby Smart can overcome any type of things. I don't think Mike Bobo can, though. And Mike Bobo has proven to be a fine offensive coordinator. But he is not great and he is not elite. And I don't think when you take away the lack of weapons that they have, plus the injuries, plus Bobo's limited abilities as a coordinator, maybe we should have seen that coming.
Is it a situation where we undervalue Notre Dame and overvalued Georgia? Again, because with Georgia, it was different for me because Georgia could have been in any conference or anything, but the way they had performed the last few years and the way Kirby Smart had built that juggernaut, I just kind of was like, all right, they get it. It's kind of like last year with Alabama about halfway through, even though Alabama had lost an early season game. They were struggling against South Florida at home. And then all of a sudden you look at the very end, and there's Alabama winning SEC championships, getting into the college football playoff, having a chance at the national championship with Nick Saban. You just kind of felt like when all the chips are on the table and the game has to be won, it's Kirby Smart's defense and some kind of a running game that just gets the job done. Maybe it's ugly, but they just get the job done, kind of like they did at Texas. And so have we undervalued Notre Dame?
Quite possibly. But if you're like me, you still have that loss to Northern Illinois stuck in your brain. But that should probably be eliminated at this point in the season. That was a long time ago. They're playing different ball. They obviously went out there and played a dominant brand of ball against Georgia. And I think the thing that's interesting about Notre Dame is that they didn't go out and finesse their way around the quote-unquote SEC team. They lined up and sort of beat them into the ground.
And that actually happened with Ohio State and Tennessee as well, which is part of this narrative. Now, we'll be interested. Let's just hypothetically for a second say that Texas goes and wins it all. Let's say that.
SEC.
Does that all of a sudden change everybody again? Is that where we're at? Like, if Texas does it, or is the narrative your conference is so weak, this team can come in year one, roll through your conference, and then win a championship because they didn't play anybody?
Well, somebody can make that similar argument for Oregon. So I think we have some backup on that particular argument.
Okay, so we'll continue.
SEC.
Yeah, Texas, and Ohio State on Friday night. I think Ohio State, I hadn't looked lately. I know they were a 5.5-point favorite. Need to see maybe what that is. 803-404-6100. Let's go to the phone lines. Richard wants to weigh in on the SEC. Richard, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Good morning. What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Hey, I just want to talk about the theory, man, about the SEC being down. And I blow up the text line every day talking to you guys about Notre Dame or the Gamecocks. But my thing is the SEC right now is more balanced to me than it ever has been. You have Georgia, you have Bama, you have Texas, you have Ole Miss, Tennessee, Carolina, and Florida to the latter half of the year. You could have put those teams against anybody in the country, and I would have said they could beat anybody at that point. So to me, it's more balanced right now. But when you start seeing SEC teams fall in the college football playoffs, it's like everybody's making an excuse as to why they're losing. It's like, oh, it's a down year. No, any other year, we would just say if Georgia loses 5 to 7 guys off the defense to the NFL and they lose a couple guys off offense, they just rebuild it. But now all of a sudden, since everybody else is winning, it's the SEC is having a down year. And I don't think so. It just goes to show you what the transfer portal has done for college football, because you add 1 or 2 guys to a team, and it completely changes the dynamic of that team. Look at what Pavia did for Vanderbilt, Cam Ward did for Miami, Riley Leonard did for Notre Dame, Gabriel did for Oregon. And you just add a piece that you need, and it just completely changes that team. And now those teams can compete outside of Miami because Miami didn't have a defense. But they can compete with pretty much anybody in the country. So I just think college football is balancing out as a whole. I don't think the SEC is down at all. I mean, that's just my opinion. But like I said, I'm not biased one way or the other. Notre Dame is my team and the Gamecocks. But I love college football as a whole. So that's just kind of my take on it.
Hold on, stay there real quick. So how do you feel about this game coming up?
Which game?
Notre Dame.
Between Texas and to be honest with you, Notre Dame shocked me because I didn't know how we would handle Georgia, because Georgia normally, like SEC teams normally dominate us on the offensive and defensive line. So to see us undersized by about 50 to 60 pounds on the defensive line, and for us to handle Georgia kind of the way we did, I think we beat Penn State.
Okay. I
don't think Penn State is as good on offense as Georgia is, to be honest with you.
Like it. Appreciate the call.
Appreciate the phone call. And, yeah, we do appreciate you texting in each and every morning. To his point, I do agree, and this is something that I don't know if we've adjusted to yet, because college football – most years, Preston, I think 4 out of 5, we'll say 80% of the time, is dominated by 2 or 3 elite teams. And I do think we've entered an era with transfer portal. You look at some of the statistics just on, I don't know if you've seen this, there's been a couple of tweets out there on the number of players transferring in the SEC. Have you seen this? If I grab this number real quick here and throw it at you, because some of these numbers here are a little shocking, and it kind of gives you an idea. Now, number one, this is so far number of players that have transferred, total players lost to the transfer portal. total players lost. And again, South Carolina had some guys lost that I believe were not scholarship players. But players lost in the transfer portal. Arkansas leads the way. You want to just take a quick guess? What seems like a number?
I have no idea.
31.
20? Okay.
31.
Over.
So 31 is the top number. Texas right now, of course, they're in the college football playoff, so maybe that skews us a little bit. But Texas has the least amount of players in the transfer portal. Again, given that they're in the college football playoff, maybe that makes sense. You want to guess at their number. So 31's your high. You want to guess what the low is?
20.
9.
Okay.
So now we're working on a range in between that. Georgia is second fewest with 11. South Carolina, Missouri are tied for third fewest with 14. So a good number there. But let me give you the number. So we've got 31 and 9. You want to ballpark what Alabama is at. That loaded roster. 4s and 5 stars everywhere. Just running amok there. How many in Alabama is 15th, 14th. Alabama is 13th, has the 13th most. Or excuse me, so if I'm going 1, 2, 3, has the 4th most. Fourth most.
All right.
So if you're going with 31 Arkansas guys, you want to guess what the 4th most is?
I'm going my number again, 20.
24.
All right.
Good call. Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher. Remember all those 4 and 5 star guys? Remember that NIL Balt roster?
Sliced bread.
23. 23 guys. Tennessee's recruited very well. 18 guys. LSU recruits well each and every year. 18 guys. So I'm using the SEC as a reference here. By the way, Oklahoma is second most players entered in the transfer portal, 27. Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby, third on that list, 26. I mentioned Alabama's 24. Texas A&M's 23. Kentucky, that program starts to look like it's crumbling a little bit, also at 23.
Yeah, but I wonder if we can state that those crumbling programs, are these people leaving? Does that mean there's more opportunity there to rebuild? So what does it actually mean when I think a couple years ago when the transfer portal first started, we said, oh man, a lot of people leaving, program must be in shambles. That could mean the same thing now, or it could mean that those teams have opportunities to rebuild.
Well, remember the initial narrative was, oh boy, like teams like Alabama are going to go and pluck our best players. And Alabama went over to Georgia Tech, went to Atlanta, was like, like your running back there, Jahmyr Gibbs. Hey, buddy, come along with us. The initial narrative was that schools like Alabama and a few of these others would just go pluck your best players and that you would be a breeding ground, that 90% of college football would be a breeding ground for the 10 percenters, the upper echeloners. And I think now what you're seeing, and why we're seeing a parity in college football, is those kids are looking around going, I want to play. I'd rather play. And if I've got a chance to go play at somewhere else and make a name for myself and maybe make some NIL money because I stand out there, I would rather do that.
Yeah, and so we're seeing more competition.
Yep.
You're seeing a parity and you're seeing a leveling of the playing field when there's not an artificial conditions placed on player movement.
803-404-6100. Let's get to the phone lines real quick. Paul wants to weigh in on the playoffs in Georgia. Paul, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
I'm doing great. I hope y'all are having a good new year.
Doing great.
I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. First, I'm a South Carolina fan, and I'm an SEC guy, of course. But when you talk, I keep hearing y'all talking about how Georgia, didn't play a good game, this, that, and the other, and the struggles they had, and Notre Dame took it to them. But Georgia, I know their quarterback wasn't great, but he's pretty daggone good. He always had a good half, bad half, good half, and he could most of the time bring his team back. I think Georgia wins that game hands down if Carson Beck's playing. But nobody's talking. They think Gunnar Stockton. He's not that good right now. He may be good down the road, but he's miles of different than Carson Beck. And I don't think y'all are giving Carson Beck enough credit. And really, Notre Dame, I don't think would have been in that game. Now, I do think the SEC is getting a lot more competitive because of the transfer portal. I agree, and I don't think Texas is that good. I don't think they can stay on the field with Ohio State. There's too much talent on Ohio State. Texas, every game they've played this year has been close, and it won't be close with Ohio State, I don't think. I'm afraid the SEC is going to be done after that game, and I don't think it's going to be close. Thank you.
All right, we got you written down.
I like it. I got it written down, and I will just say this: you may very well be right about Carson Beck, and I would say some of the Georgia fans, you might have got what you asked for. Be careful.
And we didn't get into that yesterday, but Jaden Rashada, Just looked around and been like, the transfer portal. That's a comfortable place to be. Maybe I'll go
frequent flyer.
go check that back out. 803-404-6100. We will get into a little bit of NFL when we come back. Robert Kraft, he had to make the tough decisions, Preston. And now, is he being sincere when he says he feels awful? Or is this just owner speak? We'll try and clarify a little bit. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
It's time to get ready, y'all. It's a new year, so you can have a new setup. Spring is around the corner, so Integrated Media can help you out. The spring is coming. Give them a call now. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, or Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, or Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. My personal favorite, you can control all your devices from just one remote. So it doesn't matter whether you're talking home theater setup or adjusting your thermostat. Maybe it's monitoring your security systems from your cell phone. Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. Give them a call now so you can start getting yourself set up for the spring. Call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online at integratedmediainc.com.
Bluff Road at Rosewood Drive, we have a report of an accident there, as well as Meadowfield Road at South Carlisle Street. And Highway 378 near Fort Jackson Boulevard, we're also getting reports of a slowdown there due to an earlier tie-up. And yeah, the cooler temperatures are here for a little bit. 47 today, 49 tomorrow. Those overnight lows in the low 20s. Come Thursday, 45, overnight low of 26. So going to be chilly for next several mornings, actually for at least a week. So gonna kind of have to get used to this, I guess. Right now, though, we're sitting at 31 on 107.5 The Game.
$8:20 on your Tuesday morning. I want to remind you of the craft beer card. You can go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and purchase that today. Just $59, and you can have a savings of around $300. Again, it's our craft beer card. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, purchase your craft beer card, just $59, and you can save around $300. Little message board mayhem. Preston Thorne, sponsored by the Miles Agency, here is we're getting into that time of year where maybe plane tracking for coaching assistants is taking place. Maybe ideas of who could come and be the next defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, special teams coach.
Well, I'm not sure if you know, but the folks up the road in the orange britches, purple britches are looking for a defensive coordinator. They have since moved on from Wes Goodwin, and they've chosen to make a decision. And the folks on TigerNet.com, as always, you'll hear hot board names. And this particular person said, well, we need a DB coach, maybe somebody who's not necessarily fulfilled or satisfied with their current job.
There is a guy that's out there that it was a well-known DB coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, maybe he doesn't like working with a quirky employee.
Maybe his coworkers, he doesn't love them very much. And so this particular person said maybe Nick Saban.
Of course, why not?
Get on the hot board for the DC. Say him and Dabo are friends.
Yeah. Have
a good relationship, working, they respect each other. Maybe Nick Saban could possibly be hired as the defensive coordinator up the road. Can I get some odds on that?
Oh my gosh. You think he would ever not be in charge?
There was a day with...
And this person didn't have their sarcasm font turned on, so I don't think they were actually joking.
So I'll give you another one. We got the phone call in this program. Okay, I think it was Patrick Perrette and I. And we got the phone call, I believe, when South Carolina was looking for a new offensive coordinator at one point. The suggestion to us was a former NFL head coach.
Okay.
That had been just right up the road. That is revered, kind of, actually, that is well-liked. Supposed to be a very good guy. Ron Rivera for offensive coordinator.
Well,
hold on. Let me. You go. Well, wait a minute here. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Remember Ron Rivera's background?
Yeah, that's a bad hire. That's a bad hire. Shout out
Ron
to Ron.
Rivera's background was defense, and so when I think it was Patrick that one day was like, "Well, Ron Rivera's a linebacker and defensive coach." The caller was like, "So he's coached against offenses?
It's true.
He would know offenses."
Well, there's. I mean, you'll probably see some hirings and firings that'll make you question. By the way, Ron Rivera's name still in the game. I saw his name. Think he got interviewed for the vacant Jets job. So maybe that will or won't happen. But one person who will not be coming back is Gerard Mayo, and he had the famed grand opening, grand closing. Don't know if he made it actually 365 as far as the amount of time that he made it in the game. But after 1 year, Robert Kraft has decided to move on from Gerard Mayo. And my assumption is that even though he he did hire Gerard Mayo. Gerard Mayo is somebody who was part of the Patriots organization. Patriots Way was continuing the lineage. I heard somebody make a point, and the point was this. Robert Kraft is looking at the calendar, and he's saying, I don't know if I want to be in this process for too long because I don't know how long I have. So I need to make sure some things are in place. And he felt as if Gerard was not capable of doing the job right now. So he's deciding to move on.
So a couple things here. Gerard Mayo was officially hired January 12th, 2024.
So he was, 360 days?
About right at, he was let go on.
Does he have a roster bonus for a year?
Let go, by the way, I believe officially on Sunday after. I don't know if it was Sunday after he decided to win a game that then indeed cost the Patriots the #1 pick, or if it officially came down Monday morning. But, yeah, you're talking about 359 days was his job there. But I want to read you to some of these comments real quick here. I want to read some of these comments. This is from last year from the article when he was hired. It says that around the organization, some players would refer to him as Bill Belichick Jr., for having the job. This was, by the way, there was no coaching search. This was a Robert Kraft hand-pick selection. And to the point that even some of the articles point out, maybe Bill Belichick kind of got shoved out the door a tad for Robert Kraft's own hand-pick selection. So that brings the question, Robert Kraft, how do you feel about this?
Let's hear from Robert Kraft.
This whole situation is on me. I feel terrible for Gerard because I put him in an untenable situation. I know that he has all the tools as a head coach to be successful in this league. He just needed more time before taking the job. In the end, I'm a fan of this team first, and now I have to go out and find a coach who can get us back to the playoffs and hopefully championships.
So your question leading into the conversation was, do I believe him? I do believe him. I do believe him because he went above and beyond to pick Gerard as his person. I do believe him. I do believe at some point maybe he saw that it wasn't going to happen, or wasn't going to happen as soon as he thought it would, and he wasn't going to be willing to give Gerard the on-the-job training that might be needed that a lot of people do get. So Gerard's not getting the benefit of the doubt that a lot of coaches do get on-the-job training. We've seen, if we look at Shane Beamer's grown into his role as a head coach.
Right.
When you hire a young head coach, it's sort of with the understanding that, hey, there is some growth that needs to happen. And like I said, Bob Kraft doesn't have a lot of time for that growth to happen. And also, there's a very pretty coach that's floating by who also has Patriot ties, and that might be a better option right now.
They and the Jets both now searching for new head coaches. The Jacksonville Jaguars are obviously also looking. We'll kind of see how this all plays out. Nothing new yet with, the Chicago Bears, by the way, too, but I was thinking of the new jobs. There's at least nothing that I saw yesterday on the Raiders and Antonio Pierce.
He's safe. Also, any coach that, if the front office comes out and says you're safe, you possibly will be fired mid-season.
Call your realtor and tell them to start preparing a decent listing of your home.
Yeah, let's just start. Don't add any new furniture to your house.
803-404-6100. I'm efforting. I believe we have some audio of Robert Kraft going back to his home. I'll see if we can get that in the next break. Maybe some audio of Robert Kraft and what he did, the sounds he made when he went back home after that press conference apologizing for the Gerard Mayo situation. We'll try and get to that and continue rolling on a few other NFL notes as well. You're listening to The Early Game.
Present here for our good folks at QC Kinetics. Listen, man, it's 2025. Are you going to go into the new year with the same aches and pains that you had last year? Losing sleep, not being able to take walks? Well, take action now and get the pain relief that you deserve. Call QC Kinetics now for lasting relief. QC Kinetics local medical professionals are waiting for you, and their advanced protocols and regenerative medicine have helped tens of thousands of people. So no steroids, no drugs, no surgery, no downtime. This is the future of medicine. You can use natural solutions like PRP to attack the pain from arthritis. So imagine a new year without those achy joints. Imagine a new year without taking pain pills. Call the good folks at QC Kinetics. This is the future of medicine. Find out now if all natural regenerative medicine is right for you. Call QC Kinetics at 803-281-6860. That's 803-281-6860.
Bluff Road at Rosewood Drive, an accident. Also, Blythewood Road at I-77, an accident with injuries. Also, find one Columbiana Drive at Broad River Road. Highway 6 at Bush River Road, also an accident reported there. 47, that's the high that we're looking for today. Overnight low of 23, 49 tomorrow with 22 for that overnight low, 45 on Thursday, 26. You kind of get the drill. Several cooler days and even cooler mornings, really for about the next week or so. So get used to bundling up in the morning, Bill. Right now, it's 30 on the early game.
8:35 as we roll along here on a Tuesday morning, getting you up, getting you going. Been talking a lot of SEC and kind of just where the conference is now as we head into the final 3 games of the college football season. Last night, by the way, if you missed it, you had the championship game of the FCS division last night. North Dakota State knocking off Montana State. 10th crown. 10th championship in 14 seasons. We talk about dominance, and I don't know where you kind of go with this. 10th championship, though, in 14 seasons for North Dakota State. Preston Thorne, they've built a powerhouse, very interesting powerhouse out there at the FCS level, and one that I can really, really appreciate because they're not trying to be something, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but they're not trying to be something they're not. They're like, we're happy here. We're not trying to move up to FBS and compete for some kind of very small conference championship and kudos to Pete Limbo and Buffalo for going to the Bahamas Bowl and winning that. But, yeah, they're like, hey, we can win championships here and have our own niche sport that we're really good at.
I need to do some digging because I know there's somebody that hates them. I need to figure out what
South Dakota State.
Yeah, I need to figure out what it is that the narrative on North Dakota State. Are they paying players? Are they bringing in illegal transfers? Are their grades not low enough so that they can get it? I want to know what the scuttlebutt is on this dynasty because you can't have a dynasty without haters. And so, yes, it's a great story, but I'm more interested in the people around who's like,
okay,
what are they doing? So that's going to be my job to figure out what is the scuttlebutt on North Dakota State.
You can dig into that a little bit, but I think that's really interesting. By the way, if you want to see North Dakota State, maybe you want to see them. You want to see them? Would you go watch them?
In the cold?
No. How about this? North Dakota State opens the 2025 season at the Citadel, August 30th.
It's a tough one.
Just throwing it out there.
It's rough.
Just throwing it out there. Montana State, by the way, the team that they lost, the team that they beat last night, will open the season at Oregon next year. So a fun little meeting there. But, yeah, North Dakota State opening the season at the Citadel August the 30th next year if you wanted to get down to Charleston and check them out. But really cool last night. We talked a little bit about this, about the college football playoff, Preston. I think, Thursday we'll probably do this a little bit more. But I do start to think a little bit, is it becoming kind of like basketball where it's anticlimactic on what we have for the college football season? I don't know how I feel, but you have said something that's really kind of piqued my interest and resonated with me in recent days about just kind of like, all right, let's wrap this thing up. I like football. We love football. It's not, but yeah, let's put a bow on this and move on.
Yeah, I always say,
and I'm trying to figure out what you're saying that resonates with me so much on that.
Well, we don't know till it plays out because there might be 3 fantastic games left. And I think if it finishes with a big grand finale in the last games and they're close games or classics, maybe we think otherwise. That's a possibility. But up until now, I think it's because the games haven't been especially competitive, even though that's pretty much par for the course for college football playoffs. I just think that it's dragged to me. And I've said this before, just to me, it's dragged on past this point of usefulness. I'm good. I've had enough.
Well,
it's like they're walking around at the Brazilian steakhouse and I'm like, I've
had enough.
I don't want to put my card up anymore. Red. My card's red. I'm done.
For the better part of 40 years, football has really come to a conclusion around January 2nd, January 3rd. We backed it up to January 10th to get the final playoff game or the championship game in. But yeah, I'm with you. You're saying something that is resonating with me, but I'm not sure what it is, and I don't know if it's just Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State, Notre Dame don't pique my fancy as games I really want to watch, other than just, hey, college football is on. And like the national championship game, I'm trying to think of what game you would want. Do you want Texas, Penn State? Do you want Ohio State, Notre Dame? Do you want Texas, Notre Dame? Like, what game is it? If you don't have a rooting interest, if you're not a fan, Richard called earlier and he's a fan of Notre Dame, is there a game that you're like, yeah, I'm going to go out of my way on Monday night, the 20th, to sit down and watch that game?
I am going to watch that game on Monday night, the 20th. I think, I guess what I'm saying is that I would have preferred to have watched that game on October 20th or November 20th, or, like early in the season when I'm doing football. And I wonder if what I'm thinking of, I just keep thinking of, hey, man, these players, all of them do not want to do this all year, all the time. Like, can we give it a break? We've been playing since August at very high levels, high stakes for what is equivalent to about 20 some odd weeks. Yes, all those players really enjoy football. Yes, they love football, the love of the game, blah, 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 blah. But at some point, you're going to be like, man, do we have to do this again?
Right.
And get this higher raised level? I just wonder.
We'll obviously continue to talk about that as we get closer to this weekend's game, or these Thursday and Friday night games here. Also, I think the nights are just confusing to me. Like, you're used to, all right, Saturday we're going to Thursday night? Okay, sure. I'm going to tune in Friday night. Well, all right, no problem. So we'll continue to analyze and break that down. One other thing we've talked about this morning is the transfer portal. South Carolina landing a commitment yesterday from Troy offensive lineman Boaz Stanley, who now comes in and, according to J.C. Shurburtt and according to several others, will compete at the center position, becomes the third transfer offensive lineman to be brought into the program. He joins Nick Sharp from Wake Forest and Rodney Newsom Jr. from Western Kentucky.
Big pickup. Great job securing the offensive line. Obviously, I'm interested in is the name. I think Boaz is a awesome name, especially for an offensive lineman. My question, though, does he overtake Air as the best name in the transfer portal pickups? Is Boaz better name than Air?
I got to go back and look at the. I think we had a Fluff.
Well, I'm just talking about.
You're talking about for South Carolina?
South Carolina. Air was clearly the number one. That's clearly the number one.
Air Jordan will always be, so Air wins. Air wins with that one with me.
Okay.
Air wins with that one.
Jen, Air or Boaz?
I'm thinking. I don't know.
I like both of them.
I'm kind of, yeah. I'm kind of digging the Boaz.
Boaz is strong.
Okay. Yep. South Carolina today, again, expected to host several other visitors. One player that they did host yesterday that I would be keeping a close eye on to see if they can make an impact is Trey Webb, defensive tackle from Terry Webb, defensive tackle from Texas State, 6'3", 315 pounds. I believe he is the one who actually has the extra year because of the junior college, the Diego Pavia rule, if you will.
Well, as of now, continuously, that rule is still only applying to that particular instance, which is Diego Pavia. They are in court in several places to see if it will apply to other folks.
But Terry Webb on campus for the Gamecocks. Now today, I saw you had it written down, Rasul Faison, a running back out of Utah State, expected to visit South Carolina.
Yeah, it looks like they're always trying to add depth to the running back room, trying to get more people there, trying to increase the level of competition. I think we saw, and I don't know how many years he has left, but I think we saw that Oscar Attaway will be adequate, but I don't know if he will necessarily be a game changer or somebody who can really be dynamic in the running back room. So you're always looking to add for competition.
Certainly, at least going into next year, we know that you have Jarwan Howe, you have Oscar Attaway Jr., and you have Matthew Fuller. Those are the three that we are really for certain on. You need a fourth and a fifth guy.
Well, I would just change that argument. I think you need a one guy.
You need a 1A, and that is where I'll go back. I get
so
that
they have a lot of guys, but I don't know. I haven't heard of one in that situation.
I get that he fumbled. Jarwan Howe, and it was a pivotal fumble. We talk about, well, you faked a punt, I think, inside your 20 or around your 25. You had an incompletion by Lenora Sellers to Joshua Simon at the very end of the game. The Gamecocks are going in, and you missed a field goal. Jarwan Howe, you're going in to score. It feels like you're going in to score, and he's got a pivotal fumble down there. I don't think they were exactly in the red zone, but it was another opportunity. They were just outside the red zone, I believe, when he fumbled, and that's another one. But 5 carries, 31 yards. I would have liked to seen him continue, give him the ball back. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it felt like he was making things happen.
It felt like after that fumble, somebody was like, you stay over here with us.
Yeah.
We're going to give it to the old vet and let him take care of the ball.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. We will wrap things up for you. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where as we head into these kind of very cold winter months, it's windy out there. There's been some lake wind advisories. You're going to get some rain coming down the pipe, maybe even some wintry mix coming up later on in the week. Is your roof, whether it's your home or your business, is it ready to handle the elements? If not, it's time to call Mid-State Roofing. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help protect that roof with a maintenance contract. You just got to give them a phone call. They'll have somebody there, whether it's an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. You don't have to just be centrally located right here. Mid-State Roofing is there across the state, ready to help you. Give them a phone call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Again, whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta, wherever you may be, guess what? Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. That's right. Give them a phone call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing is ready to help protect that roof with a maintenance contract. They've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry for nearly 30 years, and it is that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. Again, if you need some help with that maintenance, with that roof, whether it's your home or your business, Mid-State Roofing is there for you. 803-356-1919. Give them a phone call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
That, my friends, is the entrance from the Brahma Bull himself, who made his debut. And it wasn't just the Brahma Bull. We have our guy, the #1 wrestling correspondent on 107.5 The Game, the top-notch guy, to bring us in and walk us through what was a huge moment in wrestling history last night. Tyler, Bill was just saying that was a kind of a light sports night yesterday. There wasn't much going on. He's talked
FCS
about he's been going on and on about that.
Got into Landman.
He's failed to mention the biggest event that happened last night. Tyler, can you tell us and our audience what happened last night?
Yeah, so Monday Night Raw made its debut on Netflix. This has been in the works for a long time. We know kind of Netflix has started to dip its toe into sports. They did the Christmas Day NFL games. They had the Tom Brady roast a couple months ago, and this is kind of their first weekly thing that they're going to be having going forward. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more content down the line, but yeah, what was the longest running weekly episodic television series of all time has left cable television for Netflix.
I just realized, and I read it in the article, they've been running episodic since 1993.
1993. They have not missed a week since 1993. That is now come to an end because they're on streaming.
Was this officially now? I feel like this is a big get for Netflix. And you mentioned dipping their toe in. We know Amazon Prime has gone in and gotten the NFL. Apple TV has got, I believe, Apple TV has MLS. Who is it that has the Major League Baseball game on Sunday morning? Do you know?
Right. I think that
Apple
was
TV.
It was on Apple. They're doing some stuff with Roku now as well.
Okay.
It's bounced around.
But it feels like quietly, kind of like sneaking out while the referee has his back turned and hitting you in the back with a chair. Netflix is grabbing a stronger piece of the sporting market than, I don't consider Peacock. Peacock is streaming, but because it's a subsidiary of NBC and they just put things over there.
Right.
I watch a lot of the Premier League. But for Netflix to steal this, essentially, which is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they went in and stole it, right?
Pretty much. It's huge. And WWE have been tied to the USA Network, part of NBC, for just about the entire time. They've been doing Monday Night Raw. They spent a brief period of time on Spike TV, but for the most part, it's been on the USA Network. So this is pretty groundbreaking to go to streaming on Netflix. And again, in the sports-esque realm, this is the first time we're going to have something that's weekly airing on streaming like this.
Which, again, all Netflix is doing is setting up the breadcrumbs for us having a weekly reoccurring program. Now, all of that's the business side. From the viewer side, did it deliver?
It felt a little different. And look, anytime they're going to have a premiere event like this, they're going to go all out. It's going to have all the bells and whistles. The Rock was there. There was more talking than wrestling on last night's show.
I saw that 4 matches.
There's 4 matches over the course of 3 hours, which isn't great. But anytime you have a premiere show like this or a big anniversary show, you're going to have all the people coming back. The Rock was there. Undertaker was there. Hulk Hogan was there. All that kind of stuff. Next week's going to be a little bit more of what you're actually going to get on a week-to-week basis. That's probably going to be a little more wrestling focused. But they're in the Intuit Dome out there in LA, which is very cool if you've not seen it, where the Clippers play, and it's very much like an arena built on top of the court, like a lot of college venues are, which is really neat. And they played into that. The crowd was good. All the people were there, and again, it was more kind of a intro to what it's going to be a WWE.
So as a
Netflix.
lifelong wrestling fan, did you feel like get off my lawn, or you felt like this was good?
I felt like it was cool. It was different. Okay. And they had different camera angles, and they had the drone going through there. So they're doing things a little bit different. They don't have to adhere to the guidelines of TV necessarily. It's still a family-friendly product, but
I did see that
The Rock let a word slip in his promo, and you didn't have to bleep it. Okay. And the crowd was chanting some not so kind things at Solo Sikoa, and you didn't have to bleep that either. So you can do a little bit more when you're on streaming as opposed to cable television.
All right, really quick, cheat sheet. Who's the champion now?
Well, you have 2 champions. So you have the WWE champion in Cody Rhodes, who was here a couple months ago.
That's right.
And you have the World Heavyweight champion in Gunther.
Oh, yeah.
So you go... Well,
I don't know that he's the champion, but I've watched him wrestle live. I've seen him.
Cousin of yours?
Twice. Huh?
Is that a cousin of yours?
Distant.
Okay. It's actually spelled the same way.
There you go.
So
it's distant.
I didn't even think about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's a little bigger than Bill.
All right, who's the women's champion?
So you have the WWE Women's Champion, which is Rhea Ripley, who won last night.
And by the way, just for clarification, it's not spelled the same. He's got an H in there.
That's right. He does have an H.
I got because I get
you
these.
You don't have the H.
I think we misspelled my name on a sheet that we were doing one time here at the station. But anyway.
Yeah, so you have the women's world champion, which is Rhea Ripley, and then you have the WWE women's champion, which is Tiffany Stratton. So each show has their own world champion for the men and women.
Gotcha. Is there a storyline that we need to be paying attention to?
Some seeds were planted, I think, for The Rock and Roman Reigns for WrestleMania.
Okay.
Nice little stare down between them last night. We got 4 months until WrestleMania, so there's time to build, but that's what I'm keeping my eye on for right now.
Last but not least, does The Rock always come home when his movies fail?
Yes.
Usually, yes. When the writer's strike was happening a couple years ago, he spent a lot of time around WWE because he didn't have anything else to do.
Rock is 52.
He doesn't look like
Is it sneaking up on us that wrestling, the age is growing? Like, Gunther is 37.
Stone Cold's 60.
Ric Flair, he's got one more comeback in him.
Yeah, he's going to die in that ring.
Sting's got another comeback.
It's possible.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for our brief wrestling update. We will continue that.
Y'all have a great rest of the day.